And today we're going to put on a little webinar specifically for Chevron oil, gas, and lubricant marketers with a focus on our CRM product. So why would you want to participate in today's webinar or listen to this recording? If you just want to learn a little bit more about what CRM can do for your company, we're going to cover some of that stuff. And also, we're going to spend quite a bit of time on a specific solution or product that we've developed that kind of resides on top of a vanilla CRM solution. So lots of things to cover today. Let's get right into the next slide here. This is me. I've got 31 years of IT experience in the petroleum industry. So I've taken that knowledge along with working with a lot of fellow marketers and other vendors, and that helped us create this CRM solution. And the role I play now, besides product development and enhancements, is when we sell our solution to a marketer, I'm the person who will work with you and come out and help implement the CRM for your company, and then also train all your users so everybody knows how to use it. So that's a little bit about me. Moving right along, a little bit about Ledgeview. This chart here shows a lot of different awards that we've been given, how we've been recognized. I kind of summarize this screen as by saying, that's all we do here at Ledgeview is CRM, and I think we've been able to get very good at it. And the proof here is that not only does Microsoft recognize us, but also our customers recognize our quality, because to get some of this recognition, there's customer surveys that go out. So Microsoft and our customers recognize that we're pretty good at this CRM thing, and also we do have some expertise in the oil and gas industry to help kind of add to that. So these are some of our current clients right here who are using our solution. You might recognize some of the names on here, but I've gone out to every single one of these clients and got CRM up and running with them and trained them, and so they're using CRM right now. So our specific agenda looks like this. 4 key bullets. We're going to talk about just what CRM is and what it can do for your company. We're going to talk a little bit about the difference between a vanilla solution and an industry-ready solution, and there's a big difference there. So I'll cover just a little bit of it right now. So from a real high-level strategic point of view, your first decision is, do we need CRM? And I think most of you, the fact that you're listening to this, you're probably going to find out, it's not really a matter of if, it's probably just a matter of when, because so many folks are getting CRM that they may have a competitive advantage just because they have that tool. So first decision, do I need CRM? Am I going to get CRM? Then the second decision, once you've made that first decision, is really, do I want to start with vanilla CRM right out of the box? I could get that from any number of places. Let's just use Microsoft Dynamics CRM. I could get vanilla CRM, and then I could work with a consultant, if you wanted to, and work with them to design the solution that is exactly what you needed to do. And you're highly involved with that process, right? You're going to help design it, and then you're going to help, as the consultant implements it, from a testing perspective and everything else, and then getting that thing up and running, and then you're good to go. And anytime you want to change to that, right, you can either change it yourself or have a consultant change it, but it's exactly what you want. We do a ton of that here at Ledgeview. The alternative is an industry-ready product, which again, I'm going to spend a lot of time on that today because that's my role here. Is we've taken all feedback from a lot of different marketers and from a lot of different places, and just from my background with working with an oil company for so many years, and we've done that design work already, and we already have a product. So it's done. So that saves you the design time. That saves you being really involved with the process. One of the things that you don't get is you may not get is a solution that meets 100% exactly your needs. It might only be 98 or 99%. So that's one of your decision points is, do I want to spend a little extra money and a little extra time, and maybe it's a lot of extra money and a lot of extra time, getting exactly what I want, or do I want to do something that's a little bit quicker to implement? It's done already, so it's proven that it works, but maybe there's one or two things you wish you could do that it just doesn't do. So along with that industry-ready product, ours is we're constantly enhancing it, and that's kind of part of the product that you're getting. You get future enhancements. So first decision point, do I want a CRM? Second decision point, am I starting from scratch, or am I going to go with something that's already done? So that's item number 2 here. Item number 3, I'm going to spend a little bit of time just showing you, if you would buy just vanilla CRM, I'll pull up our finished solution, but I'm going to kind of shy away from some of the enhancements that we've made. So I will cover just some of the basic stuff with CRM, and then again I'm going to take a high-level overview of some of the things that our product, our finished solution, offers. So that's what we're going to do today. Hopefully this wraps up in about a 45-minute time frame. All right, so what is CRM? Well, it's software. And it's really software that's focused on users maybe in your marketing department, in your sales department, or maybe in your service department. Those are the 3 main modules within CRM. And if you can imagine, if these folks are using CRM, then the folks who manage those folks are also involved and could be users of CRM. I'm going to spend a lot of time on sales today because that's where a lot of our marketers seem to focus. They either have a little to no marketing team, or they don't really use the service module. They have stuff in place for that already. So just at a real high level, marketing, you can have marketing lists. You can run marketing campaigns, blast emails to certain folks to target maybe certain marketing efforts you have. Service department, I'll just give you an example of how we at Ledgeview use service. When our customers call up and have a problem, we open up a case in CRM in the service module. So you can keep track of different things from a service perspective in the service module. Again, sales is where I'm going to spend a lot of my time. And also for our solution, that's kind of this custom box here. We've added a lot of features to the basic foundation of CRM over here. Another thing I'll point out is CRM you can access through your PC. One of the ways a lot of folks do it is you can embed it right within Outlook. So if you're an Outlook shop, you can have CRM right within Outlook. Also, you can access it through many of the popular browsers. So any device that has access to the internet, you can access CRM. And then finally, some things that are becoming more and more popular are accessing some of the basic data and even doing some inputting or updating of the data through a mobile device, let's say an iPad or a Windows tablet or an iPhone. Some of those things we hope to have some basic apps for phones and tablets out in, I'm going to say, the January 2014 timeframe. That's our goal. And then we're going to have a really robust application later in 2014 specifically for an iPad, because most of our clients are asking for an iPad solution. So that's where we're focusing our efforts, again, on our finished product, our finished solution. All right, I don't want to get too technical here, but most of my clients work what I'll say is in the cloud, so they don't worry about any servers or anything. Their CRM and their data is all stored on a Microsoft server somewhere, so they don't have all that inside cost with managing infrastructure. However, there is on-premise solutions. Maybe you have so many transactions it just requires for an on-premise solution, or you're just more comfortable with on-premise. All right, so that's CRM in general. One of the things that I really didn't touch on there was the fact that in the vanilla solution, you can also enter notes and activities against all of these records. So let's say you have an account, you want to keep track of your phone calls and your emails against those accounts. Those are activities in CRM. All right. This slide here just kind of reflects a lot of things that you can do within CRM. Some of these are right out of the box, and some of these are things that we've added to our oil and gas product. So as an example, leads and prospect management, very standard CRM stuff. Integrating with Office, very standard with the dynamic CRM solution. Opportunity and pipeline management, that comes right out of the box. We have created quite a few dashboards and have enhanced that quite a bit. So you do get that out of the box, but we've extended that quite a bit. We've also extended the quote process quite a bit as well. So if your team generates quotes to give to their customers, we've done that. Specific to our solution is this concept of sales goals versus actual. Because one of the big things we do, you'll see it up here, is this integration to your back office. We feel that's probably the most important thing to do with any way you go. I mean, if you can tap into your back office data and have that, represented in CRM, you don't have to do a lot of, you don't have to duplicate your efforts, maybe is a better way to say it. Because if you can automate that process, which we do in our product, that's going to save you just a lot of time, and I'm a believer in one version of the truth. So whatever's in your back office as far as your active customers and your invoice data and the products you sell, I want that to be represented in CRM with little to no work once we get this thing up and running. So a couple other things I'll point out is the fact that we have that data then. We have your actuals. If you set goals, if you're a goal-driven organization, you can set goals, and we have goals versus actual tracking at many different levels. I think you'll like what you see there. We have a little mapping tool to map your accounts geographically, so plot them on a map. I'm just going to kind of jump around here a little bit. We'll talk about equipment management a little bit. We have a lot of our clients who have a lot of tanks out there out in the field. Maybe they've given or rented to customers and they don't have a good way to handle them. We've got a great way to keep track of that. And also, if you have your customers give some type of commitment level, like I'm going to buy this much product from you every year because you're nice enough to give me the tank, I can show you who's not meeting those commitments. So that's really a nice feature. A lot of our customers take advantage of that feature. We talked about some mobile access already, some specific dashboards and reports customized just for folks like yourself. Folks who happen to support, service, or own convenience stores, we've got a module for that. And maybe the last one I'll touch on is the fact that there's a fuel price notification module. We have some clients who are big into lubricants but also big into fuel, and as you know, the price of fuel changes every day. So we have a feature that if you enter a base price every day and hit the go button, if you've configured your customers to get an email with their margin or their markup attached to that base price, the entering a few prices each day and hitting the go button could blast out as many as you want. Usually it's dozens if not hundreds of emails to get your name and your price of your products in front of your customers, so hopefully they buy fuel from you that day. All right. And then when we wrap up, I'll circle back, but if you want a deeper dive into this, a more personal demonstration, Kevin is the guy you're going to want to talk to. Here is his phone number and his email address. I'll leave this slide up for a minute. Hopefully I'll remember to pull it back up when we're done today. But I'll give you a chance just to jot this down. But I'm going to encourage this a couple times throughout today, and I'll do it right now, is that we're kind of going to cover this at a high level. I'd really like, for Kevin to coordinate something with you and him, and he'll probably get me involved, and we'll take a really deep dive as to what your business needs are, what your pain points are. I'll answer all your specific questions, and we'll make sure you're really comfortable with, making the right decision and even just getting educated on, what CRM can do for you. I think another thing that I'll point out maybe while you're jotting some of this down is that if you go with a finished product like we have, we've gotten customers up and running in as little as 6 weeks. And I document this from the day I come out and kick off the project to the day I come back and train. I've done that in 6 weeks, and many times it's 7 or 8 weeks. And if there's things that come up, whether it's holidays or you have to clean up some information on your back office, I mean, sometimes it might go 14 weeks. I mean, it just all depends on your schedule, but I'm going to drive it to get it done as soon as we can so you can start reaping the benefits. Also, you know, as I mentioned, it's really your timetable. We can do it really as quick as you can move. So I think if you start from scratch, I've seen some numbers that Kevin's kind of put together. If you start from scratch and you're really part of that design process, there's the design phase, and then there's an implementation, customization, you know, implementation phase, and then testing, and then let's go live. He's seen those projects go, you know, in the 4 to 6 month window. So big difference between 4 to 6 months and maybe 6 to 8 weeks. So with that being said, let me just see if I covered a lot of what I want to talk about before I get into this. I think I covered just about all these bullets. So I am going to close out of this for a second and open up this guy right here. And what I'm going to show you now is just some of the basic CRM functionality. So I'm in CRM right now. I'm in the sales module, and I'm looking at my list of accounts. So I'm not going to teach you how to navigate here today or educate you on, you know, actually how to use CRM. I'm just going to kind of show you some of the functionality. So if you started with vanilla CRM, you'd have to get your customers in here somehow, whether that be through an import or somebody manually entered them. And then if I'm just going to search for an account because I know I have some in here. So if you pull up an account, you're going to have a basic account form. And the other thing that you're going to get besides accounts, which is, I'm going to call that your companies that you deal with. But remember, you also deal with people. And so those people are called contacts in CRM. So here's a company, Fairview Manufacturing. And what I can do is I can attach things. These are all the different records that are related to Fairview Manufacturing, and one is contacts. So that's part of CRM. So you can get a list of contacts in your CRM as well. And again, if you don't have any to start, you would just go to add new contacts, and I'm not going to bore you with adding one, but it would look like this. You would just fill in a contact screen with name, address, phone number information, all kinds of basic information about how you would contact the people at Fairview Manufacturing. I'm going to jump back to Fairview Manufacturing, and another thing that's related to Fairview Manufacturing, just going to click in the right spot here. Oh, there we go. I'm just a little click happy here. So I'm back to the main form, the main account screen. Another thing that's related to Fairview Manufacturing is activities. So you can go into CRM, and here's just some activities that I've got in there right now. I could add a new activity, and that can be something as simple as a task. I want to assign somebody to do something for Fairview Manufacturing. I could set up an appointment. I would say a very common one is a phone call, maybe especially if you have inside sales folks. Maybe I promised to call somebody back next Friday. I could go in and record a phone call, a future phone call, or a phone call that I just made. And then all these activities show up in one spot in CRM as well, where I can just look at all the activities that I've got going on today that I'm supposed to work on today. So you set them up at the account level or at the contact level, and then you can see them all grouped together in one spot in CRM to just see what you're supposed to be working on today. So that's just a way to manage activities. A lot of our clients do that, especially folks, like I said, in inside sales. Another thing that you'll get with CRM right out of the box, related to accounts, and doesn't have to be related to, but it usually is opportunities. So I could go in, and I actually have a couple opportunities open here already for this client. So rather than start from scratch, I could just open one up. And here's where you would just go in. This is the business that you're kind of keep track of. This is your pipeline. So here's where you'd go in and you say, look, I'm trying to get some business from Fairview Manufacturing, and I think it's possibly worth, $500 this year, $100 gross profit. I think I'm going to sell them, 50 units each year. You can put in some comments if you wanted to, when you think you're going to close this deal. And this is your pipeline. This is standard pipeline management in CRM. And then with that, there are some standard dashboards. I'll show you some of our dashboards that'll kind of show you, how your pipeline's looking. So that's kind of a real high level of CRM, some of the things you can do just right out of the box. I will also point out that I spent a lot of time on the sales module. There is that marketing and service module as well. So now I'm going to jump into more of what our custom solution does. And our custom solution and vanilla CRM will also produce this buzzword called transparency. I hear that over and over again. So whether you get the out-of-the-box solution or you get our solution, just because everybody's entering their data into here, they're entering their opportunities in here, that gives your management team a chance to very easily see what's going on. You know, what does my pipeline look like? What is each salesperson working on? And what it can do is it can actually either cut your one-on-one meetings down a little bit. Maybe you meet with a salesperson every couple weeks. Maybe you only have to meet with them once a month now. Because a salesperson who's using CRM, you know, hopefully can tell you very honestly that, you know, if you want to meet with them to talk about what you're working on, you know, they can hopefully tell you that, look, if you look in CRM, that's all my opportunities are in there. That is my pipeline. That's what I'm working on. If you have any specific questions, you know, let's go over them, but let's not make me waste my time, you know, explaining what's already in CRM when I can be out selling. And again, that's a culture thing, right? It's up to you guys to decide if you just want to use the data in CRM or if you want to have your face-to-face meetings. Sometimes it's a combination of the two. But I have found that a lot of my clients are a lot more productive and spend a lot less time discussing that stuff because it's in CRM. I've also heard some of my clients use the theme that if it's not in CRM, it doesn't exist. That usually takes a little bit from once you kick off CRM to when you can start, you know, preaching that for sure, because it takes a while for folks to get used to using the product. So once they get used to it, you know, maybe it's only 2 weeks, 2 months, whatever, but there's just a point when you're going to say, okay, folks, you know, now we got to just have everything in there, because, you know, then they'll just be comfortable with it. All right. So one of the things that I said was real important to us, focusing now on our finished product, is the fact that we tie into your back office. So we're a big believer in that. And so if I'm working, let's say, with Fairview Manufacturing, and because I'm tied to your back office, one of the things that I can do is up here in this related section, I can look at, actually I'm on this opportunity. So I'm going to jump back to Fairview Manufacturing, the account, for just a moment. So I'm going to go into accounts and just look right at Fairview Manufacturing. I'm not going to be looking at an opportunity. I just want to look at the account. So one of the things that we have linked to the account is this concept called order history. And think of this as every single line item on an invoice captured now in CRM, which is now available to your sales team. So one of the things that I hear quite often is many sales team, I'm not saying all, but many of them have little to no access to information in the back office. They have some, or they've got to call to get the information. Well, if we can get it into CRM and CRM is readily available, right, they can just be so much more efficient. So we're going to give them data, turn that into information, and give them that power. So I'm looking up Fairview Manufacturing. The last time they bought from us was on January 14th, and this is what they bought. They bought something in our antifreeze product segment group. This is the exact product they bought. Here's the price they paid, the cost of that product, volume, revenue, gross profit. I just threw in these numbers so the math probably doesn't make sense. So don't get tied up on the numbers. Just the concept here is every line item on an invoice for this customer is going to be reflected here, and it's your data. That's part of that nightly process that, you know, I'll work with you on how to build this file and send it up to an FTP site every night, and then I grab it and update your CRM. So you're always as of yesterday as far as your CRM data goes. So this is what this customer is buying. We can also, if I jump back to the account screen, we can summarize that for you. So that was very detailed, but if I scroll down on our account form, one of the things we've done is we summarize this over the last 12 months, showing you the product they buy the most of down to the product they bought the least of. So this can be very helpful just at a glimpse. You obviously know the products you're selling, so these names and numbers would mean something to you because they're going to be your products. So right away you can probably tell what type of customer this is. What might be interesting here, what I'm hearing from a lot of my clients is what's not on this chart tells them something. Geez, if they're buying this, this, and this, they're probably a type of customer that sells this other product. I wonder why they're not buying that for me. And lo and behold, maybe there's an opportunity there for you. All right. Another thing, some folks are a little bit more graphical, so we take that data and we have some charts. We just call it your order history dashboards. And what we do is we show you that order history information graphically by analyzing gross profit, revenue, units, and then also we have some share wallet concept that I can go over a little bit. So what we've done, I'm looking at gross profit right now, and this first little chart is showing me year-to-date information. So this is based on your fiscal year, how much gross profit was generated from this customer so far this year versus the same time period last fiscal year-to-date. Okay, so that's year-to-date. So early in your fiscal year, this might not be very valuable, right? If you're only a few days or a few weeks into your year, there's not going to be much here. So we also have what we call a rolling 12 months. So what this does is this is looking at the most current 12 months compared to the prior 12 months. So it's again, it's an apples for apples time periods comparison. And if you think about it, like every day, a day kind of gets added and a day gets dropped off, right? So I'm always looking at, you know, the most recent 12 months versus the prior 12 months. So that's at a real high level for this customer. And then if you care to, you can scroll down a little bit, and we break down these two charts then by product segment. So now I'm looking at year-to-date comparisons by, you know, antifreeze, grease, heavy-duty, industrial. These are going to be your product segments. We're going to configure this to look and feel just like you guys talk. And then we break down that rolling 12-month one. So this is the, you know, the current 12 months versus the prior 12 months, again, by product segment. And again, I can do that for gross profit, revenue, units, and then also share of wallet is just a way we keep track of, you know, your sales, so we know what your share of the wallet is. And if you enter competitor information, we can show you what your competitor is getting from this account. And again, that's information that obviously your sales team would have to gather. But that's something we definitely go over when we kick off the project and we do training. We go through all of that. All right. So there's some charts there. Another way that you can kind of visualize some of your data is jump to another whole spot here in the system. I'm going to go into some of our dashboards, and I'll go through these kind of quick. But we have some dashboards that will look at your, I actually have some better data in prior year. So I'm going to look at prior year rather than current year. So what this is going to look at is at an overall company perspective, how am I doing from a gross profit perspective? And these diamonds are optional. That's if you decide to set goals. So if you're a goal-driven organization, these can be very powerful because these goals can not only be for your company, but they can be like by salesmen. So if your sales team is driven by goals, right, set goals at a very granular level, and we can roll them up and show you what then your overall company goal is. So you do that for gross profit and units. I'm not going to get into too many details here, but we also have information at, we're really key on the share of wallet concept. So we also keep track of, and you can set goals for new business you get from existing customers. So a customer's been buying your industrial oil forever, and you finally got them to buy your coolant. Well, that would be new business you got from that customer. So that would show up here. And then this last set of charts is just brand new customers you got on board this year. How much gross profit and units did they bring in? And again, you can set goals. All of these charts you can drill into. So I'm just going to click here. And then it breaks it down by department. So if you have, you know, you might call them profit centers, divisions. We want this to look and feel like your company functions. So if you have just lubricants and fuel, you'll just have two departments. If you just have lubricants, that's all you'll see here. You know, I have just 5 examples here, but it's really how you break down your company. And then if I drill, let's say, down into lubricants, this would be your product segment. So how do you break down your products? And I'll just click on industrial, and then it's going to show me, so for my lubricants department, my industrial business, by salesperson, so which accounts do they own, which salesperson's accounts are bringing in that gross profit. And again, if I set goals, I'll have these diamonds on here. And I can do the same drill down on all these charts. If I really want to get carried away, I can do one more drill, and it doesn't give me a chart so much as a grid here, and it's going to show me, I think I clicked on Steve, it's going to show me all of Steve's accounts and which of those accounts are bringing in the industrial business. So this might take a little bit to load because it's going and it's searching through all of my customers now, and it's giving me a list of all my customers, and it's showing me the actual business they brought in. If I had, I could actually even set goals at the account level. It would show me, the target, the goal versus the actual, and then a percent achieved. All right. One other thing I'm going to cover, there are a couple other dashboards that do this, but from a sales manager perspective, I can look at that same data, but I can look at it from a salesperson's perspective. So instead of starting out at the company level, I can analyze my sales team. So again, this is taking overall, how's each salesperson doing for all 6 of these charts again. So I have the same 6 charts, and I could drill in, but it's going to drill in, if I'm drilling in within Steve, it's going to then break it down by department for Steve, and then the lubricants department, and then by product segment for Steve, and on and on and on. Now, if I were Steve, I am, what I would do as a salesperson, because what I just showed you were some of the management tools, but each salesperson would go into what we call my goal scorecard. And I think I'm actually logged in as the administrator, so I'm going to get different results here. But this is what a salesperson could do maybe once a week, just analyze how they're doing compared to their goals, right, on all these charts. So if you're again, a goal-driven organization, this can be very powerful. Okay, I've got to move on here a little quick. We also have some reports in this workplace section. Lots of different reports with lots of different selections. One that's kind of popular is just this simple ranking report. So what I can do is I can, when I run that report, I can filter on any field in my account file or order history file. So I could want to rank maybe accounts for a certain salesman or for a certain maybe state, for a certain time period. So I'll just go with the defaults here. And when I run this report, I'm looking at all my customers for the year, and I'm going to sort them, let's say, by gross profit. And with just a click of a button here, I hit View Report. It's going to go through now. It's got to scrunch a lot of data here, and it's looking at all my customers, showing me the one that brought in the most gross profit down to the one that brought in the least gross profit so far this fiscal year. And again, I could have picked in any time period. And what it does is we also have like a running total of the gross profit, and then the percent each customer contributed, and then a running total of the percentage. So a lot of times people will ask me for, I want to see my top 80% of my customers. Well, run this report, and you can just stop reading. When you get down to 80%, you can go to page 2, page 3, page 4. When you get to 80%, just stop. I'm going to give you everything. You can use what you want. So, and there's lots of reports. A lot of them have that same filtering. A lot of them are over your pipeline. A lot of them are over your order history information. Some CRM usage reports, so you can see who's using CRM. So lots of good stuff there. One other dashboard while I'm here I'm going to show you that's kind of interesting for a salesperson. Again, besides that dashboard 8, what dashboard 11A does is it kind of combines a lot of things that are in CRM. So a salesperson can give them like just a quick snapshot of everything they have. So these are all of my open leads. So I can quickly see my open leads. As I scroll down, these are all of my open opportunities that I have in CRM. I scroll down a little bit further. These are all my quotes that I have in CRM. I jump down a little bit further. These are all of my accounts that haven't had an order in the last 2 months. So these are my active customers who haven't ordered in 2 months. So hopefully there's little to, no customers on that section, right? Maybe a seasonal customer shows up there. Then here's a list of my accounts that don't have any orders in the system. So they don't have any order history at all to speak of. So where we see this come in handy is if you get a brand new customer and they haven't ordered yet, they're going to show up on here. So if they show up on here for a few days or even a few weeks, it's like, why didn't they place their first order yet? What's going on? And then finally, a section that's just showing all the activities that I've got floating around in CRM. So just one quick snapshot for your customers, or for your sales team, I'm sorry. One other thing, we talk about transparency. I'm kind of moving on maybe from a manager's perspective again. We talked about your dashboard, your pipeline. Well, this is a way to analyze your opportunity data, which we think, we know drives your pipeline. So these are my open opportunities reflecting gross profit by department, and then by salesperson, and then by sales stage. So I can see how much gross profit is down here, let's say in sales stage 3. I've got $7,800 of opportunities that are hopefully just about to close. They're kind of getting to the end of the funnel here. So that's the way you can analyze your pipeline. And you can also drill into this data if I wanted to. I could click this button here, and what it does is it shows me the chart, and then it shows me the data or the opportunities that build this chart. And if I only cared about what's in sales stage 3, I could just click on this, and it would only show me the opportunities that are in the presentation stage of our sales process. So we're presenting information to our customers right now, so hopefully they like what they see and they sign up with us and become a new customer, or they start buying another product line from us, that type of thing. All right. What else could I show you? I think I'll spend a little bit of time actually showing you just a little bit about our sales process, because sometimes there's questions on that. So I'm going to go into sales. I'm just going to I'll pull up a lubricants opportunity here. No idea what these look like. So this is an opportunity, and this is really, this top section is kind of what I would say is our sales process that we like to, again, train folks on how to use your sales process with CRM. So I have an opportunity. That's business I'm going after. Right now I'm in the qualify stage. I'm just starting the process. I've just kind of qualified this. I'm just starting. I'm in phase 1. Hopefully I update some of these numbers. One of the things that we think is important to do when you first start an opportunity is you start meeting with the client. So I'm going to do this really, really quick, but you would say, yes, I'm starting to meet with the customer. So you just change that to a yes and say, now I'm on the next stage. And that's going to flip this thing over to sales stage 2, which is going to be needs and solutions. Once I'm in needs and solutions, it's going to tell me a different thing to do. And obviously I want to be updating this information as I go. But one of the things I should be doing here now is creating a quote, right? Once I'm meeting with the customer, I'm finding out their needs and solutions, and our solution is going to be a list of products and some prices. So I would create a quote. I can do that within CRM. I can do that external to CRM. But basically, you just answer this question. Yes, I've created a quote. I'm now ready to present it to them. So then I would go to the next stage. And obviously, I know this happens over days or multiple weeks. Some of them happen rather quickly, but now I'm in sales stage 3. I'm in the presentation stage. And hopefully at some point after I present it to the customer, I'm either going to close this thing as a loss, or I'm going to close this as a win, and I'm going to be moving on to other opportunities. So that's just a really quick glance at our sales process. And again, all of this then is going to be reflected on those dashboards. So one of the things we talked about was quotes. So let me just quickly show you how some of our quotes look. So I'll just, this is a good one. See what we have here. So here's the data for a quote, and let's see if I have any. I do have some products on here. So what you do on a quote is a lot of this is filled in automatically from your opportunity, but you can fill in some comments that would just print toward the top of the quote. A little bit of information. You can have a supplier logo print next to your logo if you want to, but the bulk of it is really picking your products and the price you want to charge the customer. And once you get that all done, you can just hit this button that says print quote for customer, and it won't actually print it. What it will do is it'll open up like a print viewer, and it would have your logo on it. If you had a supplier logo print next to yours, it would do that. Some basic header information about the customer and about you. And then again, if you had any comments you wanted to print there, that they would show up here. And then it's just really a, I'll say almost a glorified price list, but it looks kind of nice. And then you can print this, or you could export it to PDF and email it to your client. Obviously, I'd have to activate this first, and it would get rid of this draft watermark, and there's all, a few other steps that need to happen along the way. But That's our quote. They've been very popular. One of the advantages of using our quotes in CRM is they're all stored then in CRM, and they're consistent. You know, everybody doesn't have a different version of it. So that's one of the advantages with quotes. All right, moving to just a couple other features that we have in our system. I'm just going to close out of this print viewer. One of the other modules that we've added is this concept of equipment tracking. So the beauty of our equipment tracking module is I think of equipment tracking as like 3 pieces. There's probably more to this, but at a real high level, we already have your customers, so we're a third of the way there. The things that we're missing are your equipment, so you've got to enter that here. And then after you enter the equipment, you really tie your equipment to an account. So you basically tie the two together. So I'll just grab one here. So basically what you do, once you have your equipment in the system, now this screen actually is saying Fairview Manufacturing has this tank. And by the way, we gave that to them on February 1st of 2012, and there's no end date, so that kind of tells me they still have it. And you can stop right there. Or you can go in and you can say, hey, they promised to buy this product and put in 5,000 gallons a year. And there's all kinds of other information you can enter at this level. And then, like I said, there's dashboards that will go in, and because we have your order history, we can tell you if this guy's meeting his commitment or not with just a few short clicks. Matter of fact, I'll quick do that. If I go back to dashboards, I can go back to dashboard 10A here, and I can just leave this all blank. I could say, show me everybody who's not meeting, let's say 90% of their commitments. I could put in 100, or I could just say, show me everybody, but I don't have much in here, but oh, that's interesting. That's the one I picked. So Fairview Manufacturing has a 200-gallon tank. Yeah, this is the one. They promised to put in 5,000 gallons each year, and over the last 12 months, they only put in 40. So they're not even at 1% of their commitment level. And over that last year, they've contributed this much revenue, this much gross profit. The last time they ordered was here. Here's when they started doing business with us. If I would have entered the cost of that equipment, that would have been reflected here. So very easy once you set up that equipment tracking module. I would say, man, over half of our oil and gas distributors use this module. Very, very, very popular. Moving over to another module I promised I'd show you, station management. That's for you folks who either service or own some gas stations. I'm going to do this kind of quick here. But most of the fields on here is optional. So what I like to do when we review this with a client, we just talk about, you know, what's important to you. So you want to have a picture of the station in here. If you do, you can do that. And then this is all the information about this facility. So it doesn't matter who owns it or anything at this point. This is just everything about it. So yes, you can have the owner on here if you want, but if you own them, maybe you don't even fill that in. So there's all this information, you know, address information. I'll scroll down a little bit. All kinds of information about the building. If you care about the roof type, if you care about the square footage, if you care about how many security cameras there are. You know, a lot of people have this information in their head. So if it's important, you know, you think about when somebody quits, you hire somebody new. If all that information is in here, it can save them a little bit of time. Information about, you know, your pump toppers, your lights that you have there. You know, if you got to go replace the bulbs, it's nice to just know what kind they are. Then we get into a little bit more details here. Besides this station, you know, do they have any other retail strategies? Are they running a car wash? Are they running a Subway? You know, sky's the limit, right? You can just have as many as you want here. I'll come back to this section here on how we tie this to an account. But if you have any documents associated with this station, you could store them here electronically. Information about each of the canopies that are there. Maybe there's only one. You can have unlimited. Information about the signs that they have there. All kinds of good information there. The pumps that are there. Make, model, quantity, how many you have. You know, and then the tanks, what's underground. And then anything that we didn't call out. Sky's the limit. If you want to keep track of hot dog rollers, coffee makers, the air conditioner, the ATM, whatever, you can put all that in here. And then there's always a spot for notes and activities. So if you're servicing this, you could actually set up an activity, a task, against this station for somebody to maybe to go, clean out the gutters, whatever, change the light bulbs, fix the leaky faucet. And then the last section at the station level is this thing we call station compliance. So that was really designed for, if you have to do anything maybe quarterly or annually. I think here in Wisconsin we have to do things like pressure testing and leak detection. Well, you can set that up with a due date, get a list of what's due this month, go out and do all that, code it as completed, put your results in there, and then with a click of a button, have that show up a year from now, a quarter from now, 3 years from now, so you know to do it, if it's a recurring, compliance item. What I found is some of my customers are using this not for what I would call compliance items, but can just use it as like a reminder system. Like, once a year I just want to go inspect, inspect the facility. Put it out here as a compliance item. That's fine. Doesn't matter. You'll have what you have to do this month. Doesn't matter if it's a compliance item or not. It's whatever you put in here. All right, then one thing that I kind of passed up is we actually tie this facility, if you will, this station, to an account. And we do that for a couple of reasons. For those of you who own them, it might not make sense, but we have clients who lease stations, or they just service them. So if you can tie it back to an account in your CRM system, right, then you can tie it back to maybe what the station has been buying from you, what that account's been buying. And then at that account level, maybe you've got some agreements with this individual who's running that station. So you might have contracts to put in at this level. You might do mystery shoppers, and you might want to put in some station visit information here. And again, that depends maybe more on who the owner is, not just the building itself. If you want to keep track of who the providers are for this station, who plows the snow, who services the plumbing. If there's plumbing problems, you can put all that in here. Again, that's based on the account that's running the station. So that's our station management. Really quickly, our fuel price notification, I kind of touched on that in the beginning, but you can set up customers. I'll pull up a customer that we have set up. I think I had this, let's go into accounts. I'm going to pull up that Fairview Manufacturing again. All right, my little test world here is, okay, here's Fairview Manufacturing in my recently found, so I didn't even have to look him up. He's right here. So once I set up my base products, and usually you might have 3, 6, 9, not that many, I can go in and I can say for this particular customer, they get the price for super no lead and unleaded, and here's what I mark it up. I mark this one up a dime and this one up a little over a nickel. Then every day I go in to a screen where I enter the price for super no lead, unleaded, and maybe some other products. And like I said, I hit the go button, and then it comes out here and says, hey, somebody entered the price for super no lead and or unleaded today. This guy wants to know what the price is. So it does the math, figures out, formulates an email, and then it looks at these contacts associated with Fairview Manufacturing to see which one or both of these, it's whichever ones are coded to get the email, and then we send the email. So every day somebody would just have to go into, see if I can find it real easy, fuel product pricing. They go in each day, and I'll just pull one up that I did already. They would just fill in this screen here. They would go in, and they would, again, this is going to populate to the products we configure with you. So it's going to have a spot for your unleaded, your dyed diesel, and here's super no lead. You fill that all in. You tell it to, this one isn't ready to go, but you would say send the notifications, and when you send the notifications, away it goes. Start sending emails. So with a few short entries and the click of a button, it'll start blasting emails. So pretty powerful tool. Then the last dashboard I just want to show you is this territory management, and then we're going to wrap this up. I'm probably going a little bit over. I know I'm going kind of fast too, but there's so much to cover. That's why, again, I want to point out that if you are interested in learning more or seeing more, or you have questions, I'd love for you to reach out to Kevin and schedule more of a personalized demo. I'd love to have that conversation with you, because not only do you get educated, but normally I get some good feedback for our product. So it's a win-win if we spend time doing that. So here's our territory management. There's a couple different ways to plot accounts on a map. I can say something like I'm going to go visit a customer. So I'll put in this Fairview again. I'm going to go visit Fairview Manufacturing. So if I'm going to do that, show me all of my accounts that are maybe within, I put 20 miles of Fairview Manufacturing on a map. So I think one of these in downtown, no, that's not it. Okay, right here's Fairview Manufacturing. And so these are all my other customers that are within 20 miles of there. So hey, well, while I'm here, maybe, it's only a short drive up the road here. It's probably longer if it's downtown Chicago. But maybe I could go visit these guys. So I could click here. I'm not going to do it, but I could click here and open up the account. I could schedule an appointment with them right from here. Or maybe I could just, call them up quick and say, hey, I'm going to be in your neck of the woods tomorrow. Can I swing by in the afternoon? So it's just a tool you can use. I know, if you have what I'll call a mature sales team, I mean, they probably know where all their accounts are, but I show this to some folks who've been around just 3-4 months, and like, oh, where were you when I started? It just, for a new person to just get a grasp on things, I mean, CRM in general, but even this tool, this dashboard can be very powerful. And then there's just a couple other things you can do in here. If I'm not going to an account, I'm just going to let's just say an address. So I'm going to be in, I think I have some customers. I'm just going to be somewhere near Green Bay, Wisconsin. So show me everybody within 20 miles of Green Bay, Wisconsin. And it looks like I've got some. And you'll notice some different colors on here. Some of these are leads, some of these are prospect accounts, and some of these are my active customers. And some of them are coded as just not customers. They're just loaded in the system as they're not a prospect or an active customer. So that's what those colors are. All right. So, I'm coming up for air here. I know we covered a lot today. There's so much in here. Hopefully it's been helpful. I'm going to jump back to this slide presentation real quick just so I can wrap up here. So yeah, here's Kevin again. He will be your account executive. So you can give him a call, or you can drop him an email saying, I saw this, I watched the recording of this webinar, or I attended the webinar, and I would just like to see more. We'd be glad to hear from you. So with that, I really want to thank you so much for your time. Hopefully it was valuable. And again, if you have any questions, reach out to Kevin. Have a great day.